Pam, how are we doing on attendance? Or I should say, I'm sorry, Clerk Lyons, how are we doing on attendance?
You want me to call the roll?
No, I just wondered if well, Pam, can you see who is on in terms of all of the board members?
I mean, we all can if you go to participants.
Oh, we can, okay.
Yeah, everybody's kind of all mixed up in here.
Yeah.
I didn't ask how they were doing, it just started there. So I need to know how Commissioner Skaggs gets the halo effect.
I'll digress.
You know, the Lord.
I'll take it.
All right, Pam, we can scroll back up.
Okay.
Or track lighting, one of those two.
Hoping we have a quorum here.
No, that's to me.
It looks like a lot are on. I don't know if they're all on.
What if you get 6 participants?
I'll probably say it several times, but could everyone mute their lines? Or we'll have to mute for you. Pam, can you see who that is or no?
Who?
All that background noise that we're hearing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Slamming of doors and.
Yeah.
Everything.
All right, it's 8:32. I'd like to get started. Welcome to the Kent County Board of Commissioners for Thursday, May 28th. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining, so let's get started. Wayman, can you please read the advisement?
Yes, Madam Chair. Pursuant to Governor Whitmer's Executive Order 2020-75, the Kent County Board of Commissioners, in order to protect the public health, will conduct this meeting via electronic communications. Any member of the public wishing to listen to the proceedings or provide public comment may do so by using the following internet connection or phone numbers and passcode, which are also listed on the agenda that's posted. Anyone disrupting the meeting by using offensive language or actions may be removed and muted from the meeting. You may also contact public comment at kentcountymi.gov for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayman. Sounds like we still have a couple lines that are not muted. I would ask that you please mute your line. And we're going to call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone, members of the public, board members, staff. Another beautiful day here in Kent County. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Commissioners Antor.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Bulkowski.
Present.
Hennessy.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Coleman.
Here.
Melton.
Present.
Morgan. Commissioner Morgan. Commissioner Ponstein.
Here.
Skaggs.
Here.
Sparks.
Present.
Vice Chair Steck.
Here.
Commissioners Talon.
Here.
Keel.
Here.
Vonk.
Here.
Voorhees.
Present.
Womack.
Here.
Wooden.
Here.
Chair Bolter.
Here.
One more time, Commissioner Morgan.
Commissioner Morgan had an appointment this morning. I think he's going to try to join us, but it might be a little bit later.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, you have 18 members present, 1 absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are on to item 3, invocation, and I'll call on Commissioner Teal.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. Today I invited Father Len of St. Robert of New Minister Parish in Ada. Father Len's been a priest for 44 years now and in the Diocese of Grand Rapids for 30, so it's pretty impressive. My family are very happy that he's now at St. Robert because we thoroughly enjoy his homilies. So thank you, Father Lund, for being here.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can. Welcome.
Thank you. Then let us pray. Good and gracious God, as we begin this day, I ask your care and blessing upon these members of the Kent County Commission who meet through the wonders of technology to watch over us, your people. We acknowledge that we live in the palms of your hands. As the psalmist writes, where can I go from your spirit? From your presence, where can I flee? If I ascend to the heavens, you are there. If I go down to the netherworld, there you are. If I take the wings of the dawn and dwell beyond the sea, even there your hand guides me, your right hand holds me fast. When we exercise authority and leadership well, it is a reflection of the ways that you, our God, watch over us and lead us on the paths of goodness. We have been living in a particularly anxious and troubling time. More than ever, we experience our fragility and know our dependence on you, our God. More than ever, we know the need to rely on one another in love and support. Help the members of this commission to recognize the gifts that have been given them, continue to bless them with the wisdom, confidence they desire in the role that has been entrusted to them. And bless all the people of Kent County. May we express gratitude for those who serve us now and in the days ahead. Amen.
Amen. Wonderful prayer. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Welcome. Have a great meeting.
Thank you. We're on to item 4, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with
with liberty and
justice.
justice for all.
Great. All right, we are on to, like the agenda back if I could, we are on to item 5, public comment related only to the agenda. I think as mentioned previously, we do have a public comment email that is public comment at kentcountymi.gov. So you're welcome to submit that. We do also have public comment at the end of our meeting as well. Also, you are welcome to raise your hand in the chat, and you'll have 3 minutes if you choose to address us today. We just need your name and address, and current item is public comment related to the agenda. Give everybody a minute or so. Do you have anything in email by chance?
Nothing in email.
No.
Don't see anything in chat. With a little more time. All right, well, we are going to move on to item 6, special order of business, and we have Steve Warren here today to give us an update on the road commission. Steve, we'll turn it over to you.
There's a couple of things that I really want to emphasize in my presentation. First of all, I want to talk about our continuing road improvement program. But I think very importantly, I want to talk about the Road Commission's response to the pandemic and the challenging issues that we are facing, like all of us. And I'm going to highlight to illustrate our response, our budget amendment, which we just passed this week. We are on a fiscal year October, so we're looking at the sort of the last part of our budget cycle, and certainly the impact of the pandemic and the amount of revenue that we're seeing has an impact on our budget. So I think a good way to illustrate our response is talking about our budget amendment. So if you could go to the next slide, please. The thing that guides us through challenging times, but for the most part, each and every day, is our mission and value statement. So I just want to draw attention to that. It really provides us guidance, the principles by which we do things each and every day, but in particular during this time, during this challenging time of the pandemic. And in our mission, we talk about safety, providing a safe and reliable and efficient network. Our first priority is the safety of the public, the safety of our employees. It's paramount that we look to that in terms of the guidance in our response to the pandemic. Certainly, when we look at our values, safety is the first issue, and it's followed closely then by the service that we provide to the public. So providing that safe service is our first priority. Secondly, I just want to draw your attention to the collaboration and coordination. We do not do this alone. We do this in partnership with our county partners, many of the departments that we look to provide us guidance and assistance each and every day. Certainly our townships and the collaboration and coordination with the state. By the way, we do maintain all of the state highways here in Kent County. So in addition to 2,000 miles of county road, we are also maintaining approximately 450 miles of interstate, state highways, interstate routes throughout Kent County. And so partnerships are absolutely important. And finally, sound financial management. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit more as I talk about our budget amendment. But again, to the right, you'll see that toward the bottom, the emphasis on safety plays an integral role in each and every decision we make each and every day. And that's the guidance that has helped us through response to this pandemic and these challenging times. Next slide, please. Talking about our road improvement program, we have a strategic plan. Within that plan, we talk about a big part of it is improving our county road network. And our county roads are divided into two major designations. Primary roads, these are the highly traveled, usually the roads that crisscross the county, 84th Street, Fruit Ridge, 10-mile roads such as that. And our objective is to achieve 90% of those roads in what we categorize as good and fair condition by 2025. And as you can see in the chart on the top, we are well on our way. We've exceeded our target level of road improvements. We measure those in lane miles. We've exceeded our target the last 5 years. However, this year we're anticipating that, again, with a decrease in revenue and a decrease in some of our manpower, that we may very likely have a slight decrease while we anticipating completing the majority of our road improvement plan on primary roads. We will see some reduction in that. I would comment though that we are reallocating some of our resources. So many of those road improvements you see, that 183 lane miles, we're going to be relying on more contracted work and probably work that is of what I would say longer lasting improvements where we're actually replacing the entire surface. I'll explain that a little bit later, but we expect to still complete the majority of our road improvement program. And we're thankful that we've been able to exceed those targets these previous 5 years. Just a comment on our local road network, that's where we rely heavily on our partnership with our townships. And you can see that through Township Contributions, and generally that's a shared 50-50 responsibility on funding. And the townships have done an excellent job these last few years in allocating additional resources for improvement to those local roads. Those are the lower volume roads. Many times they're subdivision streets or collector roads within the township. And we have, again, seen a steady increase. The information that we have from the townships is they, with this construction season, anticipating completing all of the contributions that they were planning within our budget. So I don't anticipate much of a decrease there. Next slide, please. Let me talk a little bit about our 2020 budget amendment. Again, our budget runs through the end of September. So when we look to the completion of our fiscal year, it's really during construction season. We were blessed with a mild winter, and I usually come to you at this time of year because it gives us a pretty good idea of where our construction season will be when we see how severe the winter is. And we were blessed with a mild winter, and we're going to take advantage of that. However, we're anticipating a reduction in our what we call our Mtf revenue. That's the revenue that's generated by things like fuel taxes, registration fees. And so statewide, there's been a reduction. Obviously, there's been a reduction in the amount of travel. We saw nearly a 50 to 60% drop in March and early April with the onset of the pandemic. We're starting to see travel increase. We're probably, compared to February, we're probably down 35 to 40%, and we're seeing a steady return to those higher volumes. But that certainly has had an impact on our revenue stream. And also, we are reducing our employment force. We are not hiring nearly as many seasonal workers. Generally, we bring on about 70 during the year. We're probably only bringing on about 20. We've seen a reduction. We don't have the benefit of our work release crews. We partner with the county sheriff on that. So we're having to deal with a reduction, not only in revenue, but a reduction in some of those seasonal full-time as well. We have a hold on hiring of new positions. So when we look toward our 2020 budget amendment, there's really three objectives. One is, again, to protect the health, safety of our employees, the partners that we work with, primarily our construction partners, and obviously the community we serve. Throughout the pandemic, especially in the early months, we were looking to simply maintain the safety of our network, what we called mission critical work. And when we look at priorities on our road network, you can really think about our priority is from the center line out. It's the traveled portion of the roadway, whether that be pavement, whether that be a gravel surface. But beyond that, on a typical county road, we have jurisdiction over 33 feet from the center line on each side, or sometimes 50 to 60 feet. So as we get out from the center line and we get into those areas, the shoulders, the drainage areas, the woods, the grass, those become less of a priority. So our first priority during this time is to make sure that the travel portion of the road is safe. Also, I mentioned that we're looking to complete the majority of our 2020 road improvement program, although it is a little smaller, a little bit reduced. But as I mentioned, we're reallocating some of our resources because we have less people to do some of the work on our own. So we're relying more on some contracted services. And I'll make another comment about that in a second. If we can go to the next slide, please. So with this year, our amended budget is some 95, almost $96 million. That revenue is substantially up from what it was pre-2015. So when we received the benefit of the 2015 transportation funding package, there was an additional $600 million that was allocated statewide through increased fuel taxes. But there was also a dedication of dedicated sales tax, about $600 million toward transportation. And that's a key point. But yet with the reduction in travel, a reduction in vehicle registration fees, this year we're forecasting about a $3 million decrease in revenue. So when we look to where those savings could come to offset that decrease in revenue, as I mentioned, we had a relatively mild winter. So about a $2 million benefit there in terms of reduced expenditure for winter maintenance. I mentioned too that we have a temporary hold on hiring new positions. It may be surprising, but that represents for us about 70,000 people hours. So most of that is through a reduction in our seasonal employment hiring, people that we use to help maintain, do some of our preservation work, people that we rely on helping to maintain some of those grassy areas and tree-lined corridors and ditching and that sort of thing. Also a reduction in hiring of new full-time employees. And so when we look to into this construction season, next slide, please. I really think of it as sort of a reallocation of resources, both dollars and manpower. So we're looking at reallocating some of our routine maintenance budget, about $4 million. To make up for some of that lost revenue, we're going to be doing more resurfacing and reconstruction, which means probably less of the preservation work. When we think of preservation work, we're talking about things like chip seals, things like microsurfacing. We just don't have the people power to do much of that work because much of that work is done with our own forces. So we're going to be relying on our contractor partners. We're going to be doing some more resurfacing and reconstruction. But one of the main reasons why you see the reduction in lane miles is because those types of improvements, albeit stronger and maybe longer lasting, as the slide shows, we just don't do as many miles for the same amount of money. For example, to do 1 mile of resurfacing is about $500,000, whereas we could do 8 to 10 miles of preservation work. But again, we need to reallocate those resources given the time. And so you're going to continue to see lots of road improvements. We're going to continue to improve the network. We're just going to do it this year, this construction season, in a little different way. And about 50% of that preservation work is going to be contracted out as well. The other advantage to that, and the reason why we're heading in that direction, is that we're anticipating some very good pricing by local contractors for some of this work. We're seeing a reduction in some of the work on the private side, not as much construction going on. So we're anticipating, in consultation with our contracting partners, that we should be able to take advantage again of some pretty good contract pricing. Next slide, please. So that's kind of the conclusion of my comments, but before I give up the mic, I would just like to give a shout out and a big thank you and an appreciation to our partners at the county. I so appreciate the expertise and guidance of Dr. Adam London. We look to them and to his group for guidance on our workplace safety, and I just can't say enough about the respect I have for the County Health Department and Dr. London's work. Also, the assistance from the HR department, Amy Rolston, has been valuable as we sort of guide through HR response on things like time off and other issues such as that. On the facilities side, Al Jano has been very valuable to me and the work that he does. We certainly appreciate the partnership with the county sheriff, Michelle Young, and her folks. Again, we typically have work release crews during the year. We understand that that's not possible this year, but again, that's a partnership that we value very much. And then finally, the leadership of Wayman, our county administrator. I was so impressed with what he brings to the table. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or any comments that you might have.
Great, thanks Steve so much, and great presentation. And while I'm waiting for people to put their hand up, I just want to say that you definitely, the Road Commission continues to be one of the most responsive departments, I guess I'd say, that I've had to deal with in my time here on the board. And I'm just so thankful that you always are willing to take our calls and texts and emails at any time of day and meet us on site sometimes at a moment's notice. So thank you so much for that. Looks like Commissioner Steck.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. Good morning, Steve. Again, thank you for your presentation. And of course, thank you for the hard work that you and your department do. Always impressed with the quality of the roads that you're able to maintain, even in these tough times. But and I'm probably talking a bit to the choir here, but I know you mentioned that your primary focus in this process is the center line through the road surface. But again, the ditches, maintaining the growth, keeping that cut down is such a safety issue. And I know a couple of roads that I deal with regularly where that could be really problematic if it's not maintained. So I'm assuming that you're continuing to watch that carefully and keep those under control.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's always a challenge, especially this time of year when the grass and the weeds are growing. We'll continue to maintain that visibility. So at those intersections where we have grass is growing tall, weeds, we absolutely will be taking care of that. So anything that has to deal with things like sight lines, visibility, we're absolutely going to be taken care of. The challenging part of that is that we have crews dedicated to do that. And so those crews move systematically throughout the county. And when you have 2,000 miles of road, another 450 miles of state trunk lines, we can't just hop from one part of the county to the next. We have to go systematically through the county. And so we'll take care of trouble spots as they occur, but if we don't get it, you know, to some of those areas in one day, we'll eventually get to it. But we're absolutely going to maintain that visibility and that safety.
Great. I've got a few more commissioners, and we do have a really tight schedule today. So commissioners, Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'll join the previous sentiments on your responsiveness. I believe I'm the only commissioner on my side of the aisle who also has road commission or constituents who live or properties near the road commission road. But I've been very responsive with all my constituent requests, so thank you. My question is, you mentioned competitive pricing right now with contractor selection. When, in your procurement policies, is it purely a lowest bid decision, or are there other factors weighed in, particularly the location of the contractor, if they're located here in Kent County, if they have a large number of employees who live in Kent County? The reason I ask is because of the economic shortfall we're all talking about now because of the pandemic, if we're seeing competitive pricing and if bids themselves are competitive to each other, is there any value in weighing some of those factors so that we can not only support our roads, but also our local economy?
Well, we certainly support the efforts of our local contractors. And in Kent County, we're blessed to have some major pavement contractors here located right in Kent County, Superior Asphalt, Michigan Paving and Materials. So we're blessed that we have a robust private industry here. But we are very specific in our preparation of specifications. So we've certainly had a lot of experience. We've been doing this for over 100 years, and we are very precise and objective in putting together those specifications. So typically, you know, meeting the proper specifications, we're obligated to usually follow the low bid. We don't necessarily have preferential treatment for a local contractor, but I would say that much of our work is locally contracted. We also have to deal with requirements and specifications and guidance provided by the state. So many of these projects, many of these large projects are actually bid out by the state. Those are where we have federal or state grants. So much of our major projects are actually bid competitively through a state process.
Thank you.
Yep, Commissioner Bolkowski.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Steve. My quick question is, what update do you have on your efforts within the non-motorized arena of your portfolio?
Well, if you noticed in our mission statement, right at the bottom, we talk about the fact that we recognize and appreciate that our transportation network is multi-use. Obviously, a lot of cars, a lot of trucks, but we recognize that it's of use by multiple interests, whether that be bicyclists, non-motorized, pedestrians, motorcycles, whatever. So we certainly recognize that. We have a strong partnership with our townships, with the County Parks Department, with the State Department of Natural Resources. And we work a lot, very closely with them in building non-motorized facilities. Many times those grants run through the Road Commission. We provide engineering expertise and construction management expertise to facilitate that construction. And then of course, many of our road improvement projects now, we follow the ADA standards in terms of reconstructing those ramps for sidewalks to make sure that they're accessible to those that have challenges, either whether it's walking or with wheelchairs. So we make sure that we work closely with that as well.
All right, we've got another special order of business, 6 resolutions, public comment and reports, and we have a 10 o'clock subcommittee. So I'll entertain a couple more questions and then we need to move on. Commissioner Brebe.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask Steve Warren about the complex. So is that still, as planned, the new building? Is that, what is the timeline for that? Are there any changes? Could you give us an update?
Well, I appreciate the question about that. So a year ago, we didn't have the building sold. We had put it on the market. Since then, the city of Grand Rapids has approached us and indicated their interest in acquiring our facility here and our 14.5 acres along the river, which includes about 1,100 feet of river frontage. We did negotiate an option for the city to purchase that property. And so we do have an option. We are looking to have that exercised here in the next year or so. However, the pandemic, the ability to complete architectural work on that, as well as, and I think very importantly, the finances. So I would say that we are in a period of delay on that. We're working with our partners at the city to look at what the amount of delay will be. I'm anticipating that we will eventually complete that deal and that we will build a new complex. But I think it's a matter of when, and I think when is further out than we had anticipated as we came into this pandemic. So we will be looking at that, discussing that as we prepare our 2021 budget. We will be doing that here in the next couple months. And that's certainly going to be an issue in terms of what the timing of that is, given some forecast on revenue.
All right, we've got one more question and then we're going to let Steve go. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to give a gold star to Jerry this morning. Can't really let this go without mentioning him. So that's all that I have. Thank you.
Yep, I think most of us concur on Jerry. He's a platinum star. All right, Steve, thank you so much for your presentation today. Any commissioners have any other questions? I know Steve is very accessible, as is the rest of the staff, and as things come up this year, we can always call on them. So thanks, Steve. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are on to 6B, a financial overview, brief financial overview from Jeff Dode.
Good morning, Chair Bolter, commissioners and guests and staff. I will be brief, and I know we have a lot on our agenda today. So if you can pull up the presentation, slide 2, please. Given us, we're in a digital age, and we do not have books prepared. If you want a book this year, we can certainly get them printed and have them put in your box at your office or at City Hall or County Hall. But here's a link to the electronic copy. Hopefully you've all had a chance to review it. Next slide. The major components of the financial overview haven't really changed, and you can see the page number references. And this is basically all included at the request of rating agencies over time. It covers most of their questions prior to the actual rating meetings. So it makes the meetings with the rating agencies very efficient. Next slide. Some highlights of the financial overview. The labor force is on page 12. We saw a 4.5% growth rate with strong growth in manufacturing, education, and health services, and leisure and hospitality. And this growth rate has been going on for several years in our area. As far as SEV and taxable value go, on page 15, SEV saw an 11.2% growth with an 8.6% growth in taxable value. The gap between SEV and taxable value, there's about an 80% match there, so about 20% we could grow in that number. So property tax collections on page 18, we typically average about 99.5% by the following March 1st. We did anticipate now with COVID-19 potentially having a lower collection rate, similar to maybe the Great Recession. That's obviously yet to be determined. And there's also some bills pending with the state with deferment of taxes to the end of September. Those bills have not passed yet, but there's talk about it. So we're keeping that on the radar as far as what our actual collection rate will be. Next slide. Debt starts on page 20 and 21. We have a 1% debt outstanding as a percentage of our SEV. We are allowed 10% by state guidelines, so we're well below that. And when you go to self-supporting debt, which is debt directly paid from the county, we're at 0.3%, so very, very low. And if you look at our debt profile, significant debt falls off within the next 10 years, barring any new issuances, of course. As far as pension and OPEB go, pages 23 and 30, this is also something that the rating agencies look at very, very closely. In 18, we ended at 91.39% pension funding. And if you recall, 2018, December was an extremely bad December. 2019 finished very strong. So a lot of this came back. However, 2020, as you know, no one knows the full impact yet of that. Our losses and our gains are smoothed over 4 years. So that does limit the impact of that change. OPEB is 45.2% funded as of the end of 19. It's a very modest liability, and we have a very low annual contribution amount. And the rating agencies always say how well managed our pension and OPEB liabilities are. Next slide. As far as the general fund goes, starts on page 37 and 38. We had a $6.3 million surplus pre-audited in 2019. However, I understand we're very close to having our audit completed, and I don't see much of that changing. We had 80.7 million in fund balance, of which 41.9 million is reserved for the subsequent year's adopted budget, 27.5 million for economic stabilization, and both of those meet our policy guidelines. 2020 fiscal year, we did budget a $2 million surplus. We did some revenue projections and expense projections as a result of COVID. We do still anticipate to see about a $600,000 surplus in 2020. And again, it does take into account COVID-related revenue impacts and expenses. Next slide. Rating agencies, these are just some of the comments from Standard & Poor's. As you know, we did maintain AAA, our highest in both, for both agencies. And Standard & Poor's recognized our strong economy with access to a broad and diverse metropolitan statistical area, strong management, strong policies and practices, and then strong budgetary performance with operating surpluses. And Moody's, again, very similar comments, sizable tax base, strong and consistent financial management, and historical maintenance of robust operating fund balance and liquidity. So next slide, I believe that was it. It's very brief. I apologize for that, but given the timeframes we have today, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
That was great. Thank you, Jeff. While we're waiting for hands to go up again, I just want to comment on what a great job Jeff did over our rating agency meetings. I think some of us may have been holding our breath in terms of hoping for what we received, and Jeff did not disappoint in our meetings. He was awesome and just did a great job. So proud to have him on the team, and thank you for all your work on that. I don't see any hands raised. Am I missing someone?
No hands raised, Madam Chair. Nothing.
Oh, Jeff, you answered so many questions preliminarily that we have no questions for you.
Perfect.
So, awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet.
All right, we're going to go on to item 7, the consent agenda, and I'll call on Commissioner Teal.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. I move to adopt the consent agenda for today, May 28th.
Moved by Commissioner Teal, supported
Seconded by Melton.
Commissioner Melton. Questions or comments on the consent agenda? Don't see any hands raised.
No hands.
No hands. All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion to adopt the consent agenda, Commissioner Antor. Commissioner Antor.
Yes.
Breivy.
Yes.
Bulkowski.
Yes.
Hennessy.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Coleman.
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Morgan. Commissioner Morgan. Commissioners Ponstein.
Yes.
Skaggs.
Yes.
Sparks.
Yes.
Vice Chair Steck.
Yes.
Commissioners Talon.
Yes.
Teal.
Yes.
Vonk.
Yes.
Voorhees.
Yes.
Womack.
Yes.
Wooden.
Yes.
Chair Bolter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 18 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. The consent agenda is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're on to Resolution 8A, and I'll call on Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move adoption I move the adoption of Resolution 49 of today's is to amend the Community Development 5-year Consolidated Plan. It comes to us from Kent County Community Action.
Moved by Commissioner Wooden, support by
Melton.
Commissioner Melton. Questions or comments on Resolution 49 of today's date? I don't see any. Commissioner Talon.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Thanks. Wanted to ask, and I'm going to ask this question now. It really applies to several of the resolutions coming up. I wanted to ask about the coordination of services, particularly housing-related services, with coordinated entry for the continuum of care. Is there someone that could speak to that?
Susan Cervantes should be on the line, and hopefully she can speak to that, or Steve Duarte.
Susan, are you there?
She's not there.
Specific question would be, are the services that the county provides, whether it's housing, rapid rehousing, prevention kinds of services, everyone in the community coordinates those services, pretty much everybody, through the coordinated entry system. And historically, the county has not been part of that. I'm hoping that that's going to change in the future, and that's kind of what I wanted to hear.
Yes, Commissioner Talon, I can speak to that. We had a conversation earlier this week regarding the opportunity that exists to improve upon that. So that is something that we do want to do. And I know Steve and Susan had talked earlier this week. There are plans to make sure that that is a priority over the next several months, especially with what we're experiencing right now with the pandemic, and making sure that we have a coordinated approach to the homeless families and all of the issues related to housing.
I appreciate that. It's been a little bit embarrassing, frankly, over the years that the county hasn't been part of that coordinated effort. I mean, making people aware of those services, but prioritizing them through that system that the community's established is pretty important, I think.
Yeah, I'm not certain if that's actually the case where we've not been involved, maybe not to the extent that perhaps you would like. I think there's some improvement that we can do, but I do know that the Community Development and Housing Department has been adjoined to the housing continuum of care. We also have connections with, in fact, we helped to run the Essential Needs Task Force, helped to birth it to the state that it's in today, Matthew Van Zetten, and then of course Sandra Gostin Jones, so that we can work to improve upon that. As you also are aware, we do receive funding from HUD. That's a coordinated effort for the continuum of care with the Housing Commission, with the City of Grand Rapids Community Development Block Grant Program. So I'm not clear on exactly the comment about the fact that we have not been involved or joined to that effort.
I'm not suggesting we haven't been involved, but what I am saying is that services in this community, the way it works is if you have a service related to ending homelessness, you provide your openings for that service to the coordinated entry at Salvation Army.
Oh, okay.
And those resources go to families and individuals who have been prioritized through that system. That's the most efficient and effective way for communities to do that work. The county's been at the table, but we haven't participated in that way. And it's really important with these additional resources to be able to focus those resources in the most effective way.
Yes. Okay, I hear you now.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Bolkowski.
Thank you, Chair. Since Commissioner Talon brought up the entirety of this and the next four resolutions, seeing them all together, and picking up a thread from finance, question to you, Wayman, do we have the capacity currently to to effectively move these resources, not to be glib about it, but to move them out the door? And are we anticipating adding staff either in the administration or at community action to help this happen? And especially in light of the fact that there's like, I think, and don't quote me directly on the numbers, but it's like 700,000 in administrative dollars as part of, again, all of this put together. So how's this happening? And again, I want to make sure you are getting the help you need.
Correct. We have added an additional staff person. As you might remember, a couple of weeks back, maybe 3 weeks ago, we added an additional employee for the Community Action Agency for this very purpose. But you're right. This is a big lift, and we're in constant review of that. We're also pulling in outside resources from an accounting and a legal standpoint. Commissioner Chair Bolter and I have talked about that. We've brought in Warner, and now we're looking at also bringing in an accounting firm that can help us, because it is a huge lift to move all of this at once, as we're receiving the dollars from CARES and from CDBG, CSBG, all of that. So thank you for that. We will continue to assess this and make sure that we have the resources on the table.
So some of those administration dollars are paying for that outside help in addition to internal staffing?
Yes, we can use some of the CARES dollars, some of the CDBG dollars, some of the CSBG dollars can be used for administrative support, yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Bukowski. And I don't see any other hands up. I'd like to try to get through this agenda. All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 528-2049, Commissioners Antor,
Yes.
Reeve,
Yes.
Bulkowski,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Melton,
Yes.
Morgan, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioners Ponstein,
Yes.
Skaggs,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Vice Chair Steck,
Yes.
Commissioners Talon,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Vonk,
Yes.
Voorhees,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Wooden.
Yes.
Chair Bolter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 18 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 528-2049 is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're on to 8B, and I will call on Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move. Still with me?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay, I'd like to move number 50, which would be approving the Kent County Community Action Plan we just amended.
Great. Moved by Commissioner Antor, support by Commissioner
Wooden.
Wooden. Any questions or comments on Resolution 8B, number 50? Check chat. No chat. No hands up.
No hand up.
All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 528-2050, Commissioners Antor,
Yes.
Reeve,
Yes.
Bulkowski,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Melton.
Yes.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Morgan. Commissioner Morgan. Commissioners Ponstein,
Yes.
Skaggs,
Yes.
Sparks, Commissioner Sparks,
Yes.
Vice Chair Steck,
Yes.
Commissioners Talon,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Vonk,
Yes.
Voorhees,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Chair Bolter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 18 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 528-2050 is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're on to 8C, and I will call on Commissioner Bukowski.
Thank you, Chair. I move Resolution 51 of today's date.
Moved by Commissioner Bukowski, support by Commissioner
Support by Wooden.
Support by Melton.
Commissioner Wooden. Questions or comments on 8C? No hands.
Hands.
All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 528-2051, Commissioners Antor,
Yes.
Breivy,
Yes.
Bulkowski,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Melton,
Yes.
Morgan, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioners Ponstein,
Yes.
Skaggs,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Vice Chair Steck,
Yes.
Commissioners Talon,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Vonk,
Yes.
Voorhees,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Chair Bolter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 18 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 528-2051.
Great, thank you, Madam Clerk. We're on to 8D, and I will call on Commissioner Breivy.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. I move Resolution 52 of today's date, approve the KCCA Community Development Block Grant appropriation related to the CARES Act, and that comes to us from the Kent County Community Action.
Wonderful.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Breivy, support by Commissioner Sparks. Questions or comments on Resolution 52?
Commissioner Wooden.
Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had one question from Finance. If I recall, HUD has yet to release the guidance for the eligibility criteria and eligible activities for micro businesses for what this appropriation is intended for. Have we gotten any updates on that since our Finance Committee meeting? Has HUD issued that guidance? Do we know?
I will turn to Steve Duarte, who should be on the line. I'm not certain. I think there was some communications too. I may have not sent that out yet to the Finance Committee. That's going to come out. But Steve, are you on the line?
You might be muted.
Steve?
Yeah. Yes. I don't know exactly what the question is. I know they that the regulations have released it. We're also waiting for them to actually release funds. They have not done that yet. But I don't know what the specific question is to micro, other than to tell you that I know what the definition is. Typically, it's 5 businesses or 5 employees or less, and $250,000 in assets and less for that individual business. With the specifics for each item, I can't address that at this point, but I will be able to if you need further information.
Thank you. If I need to follow up, I'll send in an email. Thank you.
Any other questions on Resolution 52?
No.
I don't see any. All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 528-2052, Commissioners Antor,
Yes.
Breivy,
Yes.
Bulkowski,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Melton,
Yes.
Morgan, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioners Ponstein,
Yes.
Skaggs, Commissioner Skaggs, Sparks,
Yes.
Vice Chair Steck,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioners Talon,
Yes.
Heel,
Yes.
Vonk,
Yes.
Voorhees,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Chair Bolter.
Yes.
One more time, Commissioner Skaggs. Madam Chair, you have.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, I am a yes. Sorry, experiencing technical difficulties with my Wi-Fi.
Thank you, Commissioner Skaggs. Madam Chair, you have 18 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 528-2052 is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're on to 8E, and I will call on Commissioner Bukowski again.
Thank you, Chair. I move Resolution 53 of today's date.
Thank you, Commissioner Bukowski. Moved by Commissioner Bukowski, support by Commissioner
Melton.
Commissioner Hennessy. Questions or comments on Resolution 53?
Commissioner Talon.
Commissioner Talon.
Thank you, Chair. I want to recognize that between this resolution and the previous one, we're looking at $1.5 million for families related to the CARES Act. And I want to reiterate the importance of using those resources and making them available through the existing coordinated entry system. Thank you.
Great point, Commissioner Talon. Any other questions or comments? I don't see any in chat.
Nope, none here.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 528-2053, Commissioners Antor,
Yes.
Greavy,
Yes.
Bulkowski,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Melton,
Yes.
Morgan, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Ponstein,
Yes.
Skaggs,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Vice Chair Steck,
Yes.
Commissioners Talon,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Vonk,
Yes.
Voorhees,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Chair Bolter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 18 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 528-2053 is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are on to our last resolution of the day, 8F, and I will call on Commissioner Melton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to adopt 20 federal priorities for the Board of Commissioners.
Moved by Commissioner Melton, support by Commissioner
Steck supports.
Steck. Questions or comments on this resolution? Seeing nothing in chat.
Commissioner Steck.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bolter. Just a little background on these priorities. We began to work on our priorities well before the COVID crisis hit us. And after the delays through that process, we did push through the state priorities previously, and Vice Chair Commissioner Talon and I worked on drafting the federal priorities thereafter. You'll note that these are the same priorities in some sense that we dealt with last year, approved last year. They are simplified and to some extent consolidated, and there's a few that were no longer identified in here. They were submitted to the LHR where we had some deliberation, and in the course of that deliberation, Commissioner Skaggs raised a request to amend, to add the COVID priority to that. And while some of us thought that that ought to be vetted, it certainly is a great statement of our legislative priority with respect to COVID. So thank him for that. And it is otherwise, as these three are stated, was unanimously approved by the LHR.
Thank you, Commissioner Steck. Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. Wayman, just a quick question, maybe to give people perspective. If in this world that we live in, there's emerging issues that come up all the time, what is your role and the staff's role if there's an issue that they feel is important to make our lobbyists aware of? Do we have protocol for that, or do you rely on coming to the full board to seek input?
No, we respond to current events. A good example of that would be the pandemic, the COVID-19. event, we immediately reached out to our federal lobbyists because we understood that there would be dollars being pushed our way from the feds, and they have been really awesome with us with making sure that we understood what the guidelines were, and even making sure that we communicated with our federal, U.S. Congress and senators related to this. So these issues will pop, and to bring this back through to committee and so forth with the urgency that was happening with COVID, for instance, it a bit too late. So, and then we also listen to the board. If the board is experiencing or hearing about issues, whether coming from out of NACO, coming out of MAC, if there's things that we can push on, and whether that's state or federal, we will do that. This past week, for instance, we met with our state representatives, Heisinger and Senator McGregor, were meeting with Representative, who's our representative? Blurred from a bank. We're meeting with representatives this week yet, related to the state budget and revenue sharing, for instance. So these things are kind of fluid. We do take the time to provide you with a list of items each year, but as things come up, we like to move on them just because of how fluid things are. Another good example is the Kent School Services Network and the effort that we did a couple of years ago on that, and now the West Michigan Partnership for Children, working with our local legislators on that issue. So yes, we don't wait until the exercise that we're going through now.
Well, and I want to thank you for that, because that would be my understanding and the way that I would think it would work. We've got valuable assets in DC and in Lansing, and things come up all the time, and your flexibility and willingness to keep abreast of those serves our constituents and businesses and taxpayers very well. So I appreciate all your work and all your staff underneath you that make sure that things that are important to Kent County are being advocated in both places. So thank you.
Yeah, the representative I couldn't remember for whatever reason this morning, I didn't have a cup of coffee yet, Representative LeGrand, and we met with Representative Hood and Senator Brinks earlier on last week. So just know that we're out there even when these aren't happening. So thank you for the question.
All right, looks like we have another question from Commissioner Antor.
Just a quick comment. I just wanted to thank Commissioner Steck and others, but particularly Commissioner Steck, because it seems like his fingerprints are always attached to all these due diligence issues that come up throughout the year. And I know he's an attorney and he's used to doing this type of stuff, but I really appreciate all the extra work he does getting us answers and filling in the blanks as they come throughout the year. And I appreciate that very much.
Great. Any other questions or comments on Resolution F, number 54? I don't see any. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 528-2054, Commissioners Antor,
Yes.
Breivy,
Yes.
Bulkowski,
Yes.
Hennessy,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Melton,
Yes.
Morgan, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioners Ponstein,
Yes.
Skaggs,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Vice Chair Steck,
Yes.
Commissioners Talon,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Vonk,
Yes.
Voorhees,
Yes.
Womack,
Yes.
Wooden,
Yes.
Chair Bolter.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 18 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 528-2054 is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are on to public comment related to general county matters. Again, you can email us at publiccomment@kentcountymi.gov. Just wondering, Mary Beth, if we have any public comment in the email box from today?
I don't have any in the email box.
Okay. Don't see any hands raised.
Nope. There are none.
Okay, we are going to go on to reports, miscellaneous, and adjournment. We do have a 10 o'clock subcommittee. We did hold the public up for about 15-20 minutes on Tuesday, so I would like to not try to do that again. If we can get through reports and miscellaneous, please apply brevity and to the point. That would be great. Looks like first report by Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. I have two, the Experience Grand Rapids and West Michigan Sports Commission. So for Experience Grand Rapids, the hotel revenue is off 85% compared to a year ago. It's estimated that the hotel revenue will reach only $125 million in 2020, while it was projected to be $230 million. They have enough to pay overhead, keep the lights on, and when it comes to the future, there are phases. Phase 1 would be education of locals. Phase 2 is waiting on the all clear from the governor for a statewide promotion. Phase 3 is regional. Phase 4 is national. Currently, there's no funding for phases 3 and 4. The other piece is I wanted to bring up on the West Michigan Sports Commission. Mike Gusweiler is part of a state work group to reopen amateur sports that will be advising the governor with reports. The other piece is the meeting for Jack Nicholas to come in and do a fundraiser and presentation will now be October 1st at DeVos Place in the Steelcase Ballroom with a 5 p.m. registration. And that was as fast as I could talk.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Bonk.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bolter. I'd like to report that Commissioner Morgan and myself attended the airport meeting yesterday for the first time on site, along with Chair Korndike. And Commissioner Morgan wanted to report that he was in the dental chair this morning, so he was unable to talk for the first time as a board member. But anyway, yesterday at the airport, we had a bottom last month of 4% employments versus the previous year, and just recently we had a high of 12%. So we're moving in the right direction in that light. Along with that, Allegiant is the #1 carrier at this point, and they're in the positive versus last year. So that's a little shining star in the midst of this whole pandemic thing. Financially, we've had a number of early retirements at the airport, one being Brian Picard, the CFO, and he'll be leaving at the end of June. So we've had a complete rotation of personnel over the time that I've been on the board there, and sorry to see Brian go as well as other good folks on the board. There's a statue of Gerald Ford that's going to be completed. The clay figure has been made, and that will be in a seating position, and that will be at the front of the parking area under the canopy. So that's the main news from the airport at this time, and that's my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Bonk, and we are going to miss Brian Picardi, and if there's anything we can do to honor his service, let us know. We'd like to do that at some point in the future, so thank you for that. Commissioner Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to briefly report that the Joint Tech and Policy Committee for Grand Valley Metro Council met. The major item of business was amending some smaller amendment program, but the significant one for us would be that Hope Network and Kent County Community Action received their allocation of federal funding for transportation for seniors and persons with disabilities, and the amendments are this plan allows those to be utilized. That was approved unanimously, and that is the end of my report.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Steck.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. 3 quick reports. First, with respect to the Lakeshore Regional Entity, a number of you are wondering where that is going in this COVID crisis circumstance, due to the fact that over the course of the last 2 months, there's been a significant reduction in the request for services from our clients, primarily due to the stay-at-home orders. The Lakeshore Regional entity, for the first time in my 5 years of working with them, actually projects a surplus at the end of the year. We will see how that holds up as we deal with the rebound and the demand for services, but at the current time, I can't help but celebrate that we have a black number at the bottom of the line. With respect to Network 180, some good news. We did receive a $2 million grant for Network 180 to operate as a CCBHC, which is another acronym we love to throw around, but essentially it is a pilot program that will allow us to identify and implement unique ways of integrating behavioral health services across the county. So we're looking for some great new opportunities as a consequence of that. And then finally, the senior millage allocation team met this week, and Commissioners Coleman and Hennessy and I participated in that, looking at the continuing conversation and how we can best perhaps review and revise how we provide that process, and discuss some of the unique ways in which our senior population is being impacted by the stay-at-home quarantine issues. And some of the programming that the programs have been able to identify to address that. So that's my quick report. Lots of stuff behind that, but that should do for today.
Thank you, Commissioner Steck. Commissioner Hennessy.
I will follow up on Commissioner Steck's report on the Area Agency on Aging of Western Michigan, which of course is multi-county. And we are receiving, sorry, I have dogs barking. We are receiving extra federal money through the CARES Act for the region, and substantial money will be received by the area agency to handle the critical needs for care for our seniors. And a lot of money is coming in, substantial money is coming in for nutrition services. And I'll leave it at that, given that the dogs want to walk. Thanks.
No problem. I can totally relate. Any other official reports today? I don't see any. Let's move on to miscellaneous. Any commissioner miscellaneous today? If none, I just want to call on Wayman to give us.
We have one.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Melton.
Thank you, Chair Bolter, and I know you're in a hurry to get on to your next meeting, and you've already had a meeting. I just really felt that there was no way that I personally could let our time together go by without commenting on the fact that we in the United States have now surpassed 100,000 COVID deaths, along with all the other things that we have to think about. But what really put it in perspective is it really would be the entire population of Kentwood and 3/4 of the population of Wyoming is what we are dealing with. And even though it seems like it's spread out, I think that brings it home a little bit more. And with each one of those persons, there's at least one other, if not 2 or 3 others who are definitely affected by that. So I just, my heart breaks. I'm so saddened by that. And right along with that, the 3 men who have been in our news lately, Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd and Christian Cooper, solely because of the color of their skin, they have been either humiliated and or possibly one murdered, one possibly murdered. I am sorry for our police chiefs because I think we have great police chiefs. I have utmost faith and respect for Sheriff LaHoy Young and her staff, and I am certain that they are experiencing backlash at this time too, and it just so saddens me. But quite frankly, we are leaders. Maybe we are not the top of the leaders, but because there are many leaders who are not making this a priority to stand up and say it is time that this does not happen any longer, that we who have a different color skin truly do enjoy freedoms and privileges that those whose skin color is different. It is time for us, in my opinion, as leaders of Kent County to say, this is wrong, this will not happen, and we will do whatever it is that we can do to make certain that going forward, my grandchildren will not have to be a part of this when they get older and into school and onto school, that we are still repeating things that have been going on for way too long. So my heart goes out to those families of those 3 men, and also for the Sheriff's Department and all of our city police forces as they go through this very, very, very difficult time. But shame on us if we do not come across as very definitely in uniform, in unity, that this is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Melton. Well said, and I echo your sentiments as well. Commissioner Womack.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I will be very brief for the sake of time, but I would also be amiss not to mention the historic impact that 2 plagues are taking on my community at this time. Those 2 plagues at this time are COVID-19 and racism. There's been much unity in the fight against the contagion COVID-19, yet the death of George Floyd by a Minneapolis law enforcement officer during this pandemic is a classic example of how some members of humanity will not allow themselves to have compassion for us based solely upon the color of our skin. Thankfully, our nation has millions of Americans that are not racist. So please, may the rest of us continue to stand united as one nation, as our country has lost over 100,000 Americans who have succumbed to the death at the hands of COVID-19. May the rest of us stand united. Thank you, Madam Chair, for this brief moment to address those issues.
Thank you, Commissioner Womack. Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'd like to echo the last 2 commissioners in regards to the tragic death just recently, and I think obvious crime on behalf of that police officer. But also I want to talk a little bit real quickly about the 100,000 marker that we just hit on the COVID-19 across the country. Just a little perspective real quick. I know every year we average in Michigan 100,000 people die in Michigan from various causes. And this year, even with the COVID, we may be a little bit above that number or a little bit below that number. So that's just a little bit of perspective. It was estimated at one point we might hit 2.2 million. 100,000, that's sad and tragic, and we're losing a lot of our elderly people, but just a little bit of perspective on this, and we still have our fingers crossed that we will continue to see a decline in the numbers as the tests continue to be put out there in greater numbers. So that was it for me. Thank you.
Great. We are 8 minutes to 10, so I'll entertain a couple more. Commissioner Steck.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. I just want to follow up on Commissioner Melton's comments and boldly affirm on behalf of everyone else at this table that I don't believe there's anyone that tolerates the kind of racism, the kind of behavior that we've observed in those unfortunate incidents. And I boldly also assert that I think we all stand against that kind of racism and will not tolerate it in our community.
Thank you, Commissioner Steck. I wholeheartedly agree. Any other miscellaneous today? I do want to call on Wayman for a quick update on a couple staffing issues, and then I would like to quickly adjourn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Many of you have asked about Matthew Van Zetten, our Assistant Administrator. He has been off on medical leave about the first week of April, and he's still out, will not be returning until mid-July. At this point, that's what the doctors are saying, but that could be longer based on his current condition. I don't know if you all know, but Matthew has been suffering Crohn's disease. Since he's been here at the county, there's been a couple episodes where he's had to be gone to attend to some drawbacks there. I'm not certain how soon it will be that he will be back to full health. The other, I wanted to just mention that we're in the process of recruiting the Deputy County Administrator. That process has begun. We hope to be completing that process at the end of July. I've asked Chair Bolton if she could sit in on either the first or second interviews. Will also be reaching out to a couple of our elected officers within the county, as well as some of our local units of government folks to be a part of that, similar to what I experience when I came into the county 16 years ago in the selection process. So I wanted to let you know that that is underway, and we're hoping that we can get that done. I also will send you a copy of our latest word chart. I think that question was asked by Commissioner Hennessy. I'll push that out so that everybody understands who's in what seats and who's doing what as we are moving. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And I just again want to acknowledge staff for all the work and the heavy lifting they're doing. It's been monumental to have our board meetings, our finance, our legislative, and then add on 2 subcommittee meetings every week. So it's been a big task, a lot going on, a lot of outreach to the community. So I want to again acknowledge all the hard work and awesome work of our staff. So with that, I will call on Commissioner Teal for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Chair Bolter. I move to adjourn, subject to the call of the chair, to Thursday, June 11th, 2020 at 8:30.
Moved by Commissioner Teal, support by Commissioner
Everybody, Bulkowski.
Wilkowski. Awesome. All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. Have fun at 10.
Thanks,
Peter,
everyone.
just got a couple